So this one's from Steven Johnson. Subject mailbag question. Hey K100, day one listener, first time writing a question. Have Conan or Disco ever witnessed either a challenger or a title or even a champion boo-boo face to the ring, either on TV or not, knowing they were going to lose their belt or not win their title if they were competing for it? Thanks for answering. Look forward to your show every week. Cheers, Steve Johnson.
That's a good question.
I get an interesting story to this. So when I first got on Twitter, and I'd gotten up to maybe 5 to 10,000 followers, there was a WWE pay-per-view. Okay, Randy Orton was the champion. Okay, this is a few years ago. Whenever Randy was a champion, he's coming out to the ring, and I could just tell by his ring entrance he's got the I'm going under face on.
Yeah.
Right. So I tweeted Randy Orton with his go under face on. Okay. And so Bleacher Report, how when they do viral things and stuff, everything, they retweeted it or put it in an article, like just gonna say Randy Orton went out and lost.
Yeah.
It's you can absolutely tell when a guy's one of those guys that doesn't. And bro, old school guys like to do all these tricks. Okay, if they gotta do the job, they're not gonna look good doing it sometimes, right? Because they know they want the promoter to know, hey, you want this guy to get a big pop. It's I'm not the guy to do that with because I'm not going to make the guy look good. And that's a tactic that these old school guys, I've seen it a million times.
Right.
I wouldn't do it. And I know probably Nick wouldn't do it. But there's that philosophy that these old school tricks and these guys because these guys grew up in some of the culture of they would screw each other over. There was interpromotional feuds. There were indie territory. There were territories and stuff. And that's the way they did businesses. I absolutely would see that. You can tell too. Go ahead.
Yeah, I just like to point out I've never done
right.
With the
I've never done it either.
World championships I've held. Honestly, I don't think it's any secret that I was less than thrilled with the way that my run with the TNA World Title went. But that kind of goes back to the conversation we were having with Mike Bennett, and that that was completely out of my control. It's there's only so much you can do. Right. It's if they're gonna at that time John Gaburik was just determined that I was just gonna look like shit. So I was okay, whatever, man. So in a way I was kind of relieved when they said, okay, you're gonna drop the title to EY. And here's the thing, I've never done it simply because I have too much respect for the business, too much respect for and I've had too much respect for every guy I've ever passed the torch to. I dropped the TNA title to Eric Young. I dropped the global title to Alberto, and then obviously with Cody with the 10 pounds of gold. But I will say that I've seen it. There was always, and I'll tread carefully because I like the guy. He's polarizing, but he's a buddy of mine, and I like him, and I've always had good chemistry with him, worked well with him, but. There was always a narrative at TNA that James Storm was a bit like that. He would kind of turn it on or off, depending on which way it was going. And it's hard.
He was the only guy that brought his agent to the shows, right?
Well, it's hard. It's hard for me to weigh in because it's it's kind of like with spoilers. It's we always, if you know what's going to happen, it's you can't really look at it.
Right, you're not. Yeah,
I will say when I was in the British Invasion with Doug and we won the TNA tag titles, we won it in some, typical overbooked TNA thing, which it was a ladder match, but it was one belt was a TNA tag team belt and the other belt was a New Japan tag title belt. And there was one of each hanging up and it was whichever guy got one belt, their team was that tag team champions, and whichever one got the other, and it was just a convoluted way to get all the belts back where they needed to be, right? Because they, I think the Dudleys had to get the New Japan belts back, and me and Doug were going to win the TNA tag titles, but the TNA tag champions were Booker T and Scott Steiner, and Booker was leaving the company. Scott, I've always gone great with. I always tell this story, but I was 21 when I signed with TNA. I was a kid. Do you know what I mean? I didn't know on my elbow. Yeah, I was 21.
Oh, you were when you were Magnus. You were 21 years old.
When I started.
Let me take a wild guess. Let me tell. Okay, so I wasn't there when you were there. You're 21 years old. probably came across like $1 million like you do now. I guarantee you Kevin Nash probably gravitated to you. Do he like you? Yeah, I knew Kevin would probably absolutely be like attracted to you.
And I'm glad you said that, because I remember like when we, my generation are the ones who, we grew up with the internet and the rumor mill and the dirt sheets and all that kind of stuff. And I remember when I signed, like, my friends in the business, like Marty and all these, they were going like, "Oh my God, are you worried about Scott Steiner and Kevin Nash?" Because obviously, there's all this narrative about them.
You hear the people outside the business stories, right?
They hate all the young guys. They're going to bury you, and
right.
And everyone at Kevin Nash and Scott Steiner were cooler to me than like everybody else. And Mick Foley was cool as. I mean, obviously, to be honest, most of the tippy top guys were always the nicest guys. Sting was always great to me. Kurt was always great to me. But Kevin and Scott were like, obviously, I was kind of wary of them, and they were both super cool to me.
Of course, yeah.
And I wouldn't
realize once you meet them, it's like these guys aren't anything like I've heard. Yeah, right.
Scott Steiner. He's like to this day, like I've got pictures of Scott with my son. You know what I mean? Yeah. But I wouldn't say Booker had a boo-boo face, but he wasn't. He just didn't care. Like he wasn't particularly enthusiastic, and like he pretty much like it was weird because even though we were winning the tag titles, it was Booker and Scott, the Dudleys, Beer Money, and us. So it's like we're the lowest on the totem pole, like pecking order wise, and we're winning and we're going over. You know what I mean? So we're just kind of sitting there. Everyone, and of course, like Bubba's like taking over everything, and we're putting it together, and it's like, and then like right, and everyone's like, and they're all like weighing in on this stuff, and like Booker pretty much just like, I just want to do this and I just want to do that, and that's it. So we just kind of went, okay, you know what I mean? So it wasn't, I wouldn't say like boo-boo face, but we were just kind of like, all right, cool. So it was like, I don't know if we ever even. I don't think we ever even touched, in the match. Like we just, we did all our spots with Beer Money and whatever, and then we, did the finish and got the belts. But like that's as close as I saw it.
Yeah.